An American exchange student in my cooking class in Italy was tasked with making a simple sauce. The recipe called for 10 ml of olive oil. He stared at the measuring cylinder in utter bewilderment, then shrugged and poured in what he thought was a splash. It was closer to half a cup. The final dish was an oily, inedible mess. He blamed the recipe, declaring, "This is why Italian food is so greasy. They use a measurement system designed by mad scientists." My American boss on his first business trip to our Toronto office rented a car. He called me an hour later, absolutely furious. "This piece of junk they gave me is broken. The gas gauge is stuck on I've been driving for an hour on the highway and it hasn't moved. I'm going to run out of gas in the middle of nowhere." I had to gently explain that he had driven about 80 kilometers, which is only 50 km, and that the car's tank was in fact still full. I was working at a clinic in Australia when an American tourist came in for a checkup. The nurse asked for his weight and he proudly said, 200 sharp. The nurse converted it and wrote down 90. The man saw the chart and his face went pale. 90? I'm only 90. Am I dying? I've lost over 100 pounds. Oh my God, it must be a parasite. It took the doctor 10 minutes to calm him down and explain he was perfectly healthy, just metrically lighter. My cousin from Arizona came to visit me in Germany in July during a massive heat wave. He looked at the forecast on his phone, which read 35 fun Cs, and started unpacking all his thickest sweaters and a winter jacket. "Dude, you didn't tell me there was a freak cold front. It's only 35 degrees. We're going to freeze." He genuinely thought he was about to experience near-freezing weather and refused to believe me. When I told him it was actually 95 for Edis and dangerously hot outside. An American tourist was trying to buy fabric in a shop in London. She told the clear, "I need 3 yards of this for a dress." The clear, holding a meter stick, politely asked, "How many meters would that be?" The woman huffed, "I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. A yard is a yard. It's a universal measurement." "Isn't it?" She then proceeded to try and demonstrate the length with her arms, nearly knocking over a display of buttons. I witnessed an American arguing with a rental car agent in France. He was pointing at the car's odometer. "You're trying to rip me off." The website said the car had 50,000 miles on it. This one has over 80,000. The agent kept trying to explain that the reading was in kilometers and that 80,000 kilo touries was actually less than 50,000 miles. The American wasn't having it. "Nice try, buddy. Numbers are numbers, I want the car I paid for, not this clunker." My American roommate in Berlin bought a new digital bathroom scale and was ecstatic. The next morning, he ran into the living room shouting, "This European air is amazing. I've lost so much weight." He was claiming he went from 180 pounds to just 82. He was flexing in the mirror and talking about his new shredded physique, not realizing the scale was set to kilograms by default. The disappointment on his face when I explained it was profound. An American family was at the base of a popular hiking trail in Canada. The sign said the waterfall was a 3-kilometer loop. The father looked at it, scoffed, and told his kids, 3 kilometers, that's nothing. We can do that in 20 minutes. Easy." An hour and a half later, I saw them trudging back, exhausted and dehydrated. The dad was complaining. "That was the longest 3 kilometers of my life. They must have a different, longer kind of kilometer up here." At a gym in Spain, an American was trying to impress a group of people by bench pressing what he thought was a huge amount of weight. He loaded the bar with plates that had 25 on them and started shouting, "Yeah, 25 baby. Lightweight." He didn't realize they were 25-kilo plates, not 25-pound plates. He was trying to lift a 145 or 32, and the bar didn't even budge off the rack. He blamed it on jet lag. An American tourist in a Rome cafe was complaining to the barista about his espresso. "This is ridiculously small. I asked for a double shot and you gave me 60 milliliters. In America, a double shot is at least 4 ounces. The barista just shrugged. The tourist then said, "It's a total scam. You guys charge for a full drink, but only give people a thimbleful of coffee. I want my money back for the coffee you didn't give me." My American friend was trying to use the GPS on his phone to navigate Paris. He kept getting frustrated, yelling at the automated voice. "What the hell is 500 melt? Just tell me if it's a block or half a block. Is it a long block? A short block? You're speaking gibberish." He ended up turning it off and trying to navigate by feel, getting hopelessly lost within 10 minutes. An American was on a high-speed train in Japan and saw on the display that the train was traveling at 280 km/h. He turned to his wife and said with a disappointed tone, "See, this isn't even that fast. It's only 280. My brother's Mustang can do 160. I thought these things were supposed to be futuristic." He had no idea he was traveling at 175 mph. I overheard an American at a gas station outside of Vancouver, Canada, looking at the pump in disbelief. $2 for gas. This is highway robbery. He was yelling at his wife about the socialist prices. He didn't notice the price was per liter and that the Canadian dollar was weaker. He paid, got back in his car and drove off, not realizing he had just paid the equivalent of about $5.50 per gallon. An American woman in an expat group online asked for help with her oven in the UK. "My oven is broken. I set it to 200 like the recipe said, but it barely got warm and my chicken is still raw after an hour. Does anyone know a good repairman for American-style ovens?" Dozens of people had to explain that her oven was in Celsius and she had set it to 200 Dionu, which is nearly 400 Dingular, and that her chicken was likely a smoldering cinder. A tourist from the US was at a doctor's office in Ireland, and the doctor told him his son, who had a fever, had a temperature of 39 degrees. The American father panicked. 39. That's barely alive. That's hypothermia. Get him a blanket. Turn up the heat. The doctor had to physically stop him from wrapping the feverish child in a wool coat, explaining that 39-ton tukar is a high fever of 100 Gouda. My American manager, trying to sound relatable in our German office, was talking about his weekend plans. "Yeah, I'm going to run a 10K race on Saturday." He paused, then added, "For our benefit, that's about 2, maybe 3 miles. Right, a nice little jog." The entire room of German engineers, who knew perfectly well a 10K is 6, to me, just stared at him in awkward silence. An American was trying to order a beer in an Australian pub. The bartender said, "We've got pints and schooners." The American, confused, asked, "How many ounces is a pint here?" The bartender admitted he wasn't sure. The American threw his hands up in exasperation. "How can you sell something if you don't even know how big it is?" "What is this? A guessing game? Just give me the biggest one you have." I was on a flight to France, and the pilot announced the cruising altitude was 10,000 meters. The American man next to me, who had been bragging about his own pilot's license, scoffed loudly. 10,000. We're flying way too low. That's barely off the ground. This pilot is an amateur." He spent the rest of the flight nervously looking out the window, unaware we were at a standard altitude of 33,000 feet. An American family was at a swimming pool in Mexico. The sign said the water depth was 1.5 meh. The mother refused to let her children in the deep end. "Absolutely not. 15 mehs is way too deep. You'll drown." Her husband tried to tell her it was 1.5, but she insisted. "No. In other countries, the comma is a period, and the period is a comma. It's a 15-mer death trap." My friend from Texas was helping me assemble a bookshelf from IKEA. He looked at the instructions and threw the little wrench on the floor. "This is impossible. It says I need to tighten a 10 mm bolt. I have a whole toolbox and there's nothing in here but inches. 58s, 1 to 2, 3 to 16. It's like they invented a whole new kind of screw just to mess with people. This is anti-American." An American tourist in a Dutch cheese shop asked for a pound of goe. The shopkeeper cut a piece and put it on the scale, which read 450 Greek. The tourist squinted at it. "That's not a pound. A pound is 16 ounces. What is this 415 nonsense? Are your scales broken?" "Give me the real weight." He was convinced the shopkeeper was trying to shortchange him by using fake numbers. A young American influencer was vlogging her trip to New Zealand. She was standing in front of a road sign that said, "Next town, 80 kilometers. She turned to her camera and said, "Oh my God. You guys, everything is so far away here. We have to drive 80,000 miles to the next town. This country is like way bigger than I thought." The comment section was a bloodbath. My American uncle came to visit and wanted to make his famous chili. He sent me a shopping list that included a gallon of milk. I went to the store and bought him 4 1L cartons, which is roughly a gallon. He looked at them with disgust. "What is this milk for ants? I need a proper gallon jug. How do you people feed your families with these tiny little juice boxes of milk?" An American was trying to get a weather report for his fishing trip in Ireland. The local fisherman told him the wind would be blowing at 20 knots. The American asked, "What's that in miles hour?" The fisherman shrugged. The American sighed and said, "You know, for a country of sailors, you'd think you'd have a more practical way of measuring wind. It's just confusing for the sake of being confusing." A student from California in my chemistry lab in the UK completely botched an experiment because he refused to use the metric beers. He brought in his own set of American measuring cups from his kitchen. The professor told him his measurements would be inaccurate. He replied, "A cup is a cup. It's standardized." He ended up creating a foul-smelling foam that bubbled over the table. An American tourist was at a tailor in Vietnam getting a suit made. The tailor measured his inseam as 81 centimeters. The man looked horrified. 81. My inseam is a 32. You're trying to make me pants for a giant. I'm not going to pay for your mistake. He insisted the tailor remeasure him, but only using an American tape measure he conveniently had in his pocket. My American colleague was complaining about his new apartment in Stockholm. "The thermostat is garbage. I set it to 72 because I like it warm, but the apartment is an icebox. I have to wear a hoodie inside." I walked over to his thermostat and saw he had set it to 20 C-sect. I turned it up to 25 for the Cs. He was amazed. "Wow, you fixed it. What did you do, some kind of European tech magic?" An American was trying to buy a new TV in Germany. He asked the salesperson, "Do you have any 75-inch screens?" The salesperson pointed to a sign that said 190 Centur. The American shook his head. No, I need a 75 in, not a 190. I don't know what that is. Can you just show me the big ones?" The American's ones. A tourist from Florida was on a guided tour of a French vineyard. The guide mentioned the estate covered 20 hectares. The American tourist interrupted. "How many acres is that? Can you put it in terms we can understand? Like, how many football fields?" The French guide just stared at him blankly for a moment before saying, "It is very large," and moving on. My American friend was trying to fill a prescription in Spain. The pharmacist gave him a bottle of pills and said, "Take 500 milligrams twice a day." He looked at the tiny pills in his hand and said, 500, are you trying to kill me? That's a massive overdose. In the States, the strongest pills are like 10 or 20 milligrams. He was confusing the dosage of 2 completely different types of medication. An American was bragging to his friends at a pub in London about the size of his new truck. Back home? Yeah, it's a beast. The tank holds 35 gallons. An English guy next to him said, "Blime me, that's over 150 L. The American looked at him confused and said, "What's a liter?" The entire table went quiet. An American couple was looking at a weather map of Australia on TV, which showed temperatures of 40 degrees in the outback. The husband said to his wife, "See, honey, it's not that hot there. It's only 40 degrees. Gets colder than that in Chicago." He was planning a summer trip with no concept that he was looking at a forecast of 104 degrees to. My American neighbor in Japan was trying to buy a rug. He measured his living room and needed a rug that was 12 feet by 15 feet. He went to a store and tried to explain these dimensions to the staff. They were confused. He got frustrated and drew a rectangle on a piece of paper. "This big?" he said, pointing. "Why don't you guys use feet? It's the most logical system. It's based on, a foot." An American tourist was at a butcher shop in Argentina asking for 2 kilos of steak. The butcher cut a piece that weighed just over 900 grahias. The American insisted it wasn't enough. A pound is a pound. Man, that's not 2 of them. He made the butcher keep adding tiny slivers of meat until the scale finally read 1 key try, at which point he said, "There. Perfect." He bought 2. 2 pounds of steak, thinking he had finally gotten his 2-pound. An American was trying to follow a map while driving through the Italian countryside. The map said the next turn was in 2 km. After driving for what felt like a minute, his wife said, "I think that was our turn." He replied, "No, wait, we haven't gone 2 miles yet." Kilomi and miles are pretty much the same thing, just spelled different. We've got more time. They ended up 20 miles in the wrong direction,